Hi, everybody. Today, I want to talk about overcoming the resistance to change. Now, it's a topic that doesn't get much attention, yet it's one of the biggest stumbling blocks that I see in coaching new clients. It seems that everyone is afraid of change in some form or fashion. In fact, the older that you get, the more resistant to change you become. It's true. And it's not just an age-related matter if the truth is known, because your current surroundings and the culture in which you grew up in all play a very important role in how you think and feel each and every day. And that is really important to pay attention to. You know, this happens because of the deadly trap of familiarity. Oh my goodness. Familiarity. I can't say that word. Anyway, as we get older, we see that we seek out things that bring us safety and comfort, and things that we know. Familiarity. There, I said it. It's a deadly trap that can rob us from getting everything that we truly desire in life. And people don't realize this. They don't realize that they're actually doing a disservice to themselves by not paying attention to the details. You know, you've heard when you were younger that the devil is in the details. Well, it certainly is. And here's what no one ever tells us. When you are comfortable in your life, nothing happens. Balance is stagnation. And being watchful and precautious and reflective while taking your time to do important things might have their advantages, but if your habit is inching you more and more towards procrastination, then it could be that you are resistant to change. And frankly speaking, you're not alone, because billions of people around the world live this way every single day. It's crazy to think, but that's true. You know, most people in some way or the other are resistant to change because of the level of uncertainty that it brings with it. And the truth is that most people hold many assumptions about change. When we don't have a particular piece of information, our brain fills in the blank. And it's usually filled in with something negative and something that scares us. So we resist it because it's unknown and therefore it's frightening. That's how we interpret it in our brains. And this is really important to understand because it takes real effort to act on changes. And some people aren't so keen on putting in that effort because people who are typically resistant to change are, by and large, lazy to a certain degree. Now, don't let that offend you. Don't take it personally. It's just the truth. And some people don't believe that they can see any results, so they figure, man, so why do it? Why should I even try? Because it's not going to work for me. I find it shocking. It blows my mind that this mentality is pervasive through our culture. Other people think that they don't deserve to be happy, and so they don't change to improve their situations. And this also blows my mind. Why would you allow yourself to be like that? And some people get so lost and stuck in the cycle of anxiety that they actually fail to recognize the scope for change for a better life. In other words, they can't see the forest because of the trees. Seriously. So what I mean by that is that they become so comfortable where they are And so it's far easier just to stay where they are in life than to make the effort to improve their situations because of the unknown and uncertainty, which is that deep, dark, scary place in the back of our minds. And we've all been there before. Let's take the example of losing weight. So you're trying to lose weight and you start eating healthy and working out. Usually this is most people in January, right after New Year's Eve. You make the resolution, I'm going to lose weight. But after a few weeks, you find yourself right back at square one, eating junk food and living that sedentary lifestyle. So why do we do that? What gives? Well, the answer is more simple than you think. And according to the psychologists that I work with, they tell me that our natural resistance to change is to blame. Now, psychologists believe that this is due to the deadly trap of that word I can't say, familiarity. That word is going to drive me nuts. But as we age, we seek out things that bring us safety and comfort. We look for things which are going to make us feel good, which are going to feel safe and feel known to us. And this is really important to understand. In other words, we stick to what we know. And while there's nothing wrong with a little stability in our lives, this resistance to change can prevent us from reaching our full potential in life. And this is what creates all of the stress and anxiety in our lives. So how do we overcome this resistance to change if we're willing to change? And that's a big if, because I find that most people I work with in the beginning are afraid to change. For starters, we need to understand why we resist change in the first place. And the very first thing to really understand about this is that it is a fear-based mentality. That is a fear-based mentality. And if you think this, if you're the kind of person that thinks like this, that thinks this way, you are living your life in a state of fear and you don't even know it, most likely. And that's where the problems begin. And so, because it becomes such a comfortable place for us to live in, it's cozy, it's warm, it's known, it's everything that we trust, we completely normalize living that way, and we just learn to accept it as who we are. But guess what? That is a lie that we all convince ourselves is truth. And I'm here to tell you that it's not true at all. Even if it's what you currently believe, it's not the truth. Usually, this fear-based mentality is rooted in stress and anxiety because we associate change with stress, and we associate stress with being hard or difficult, which prevents us from accomplishing anything we want to do in our lives. Is this starting to make sense to you? That's another lie that we have convinced ourselves is true. Because change is not difficult. We lie to ourselves and convince ourselves that change is difficult. And that keeps us locked in that fear-based mentality, and it keeps us right where we are in life and prevents us from moving forward. So changing the way you feel about it conjures up these feelings of fear, of the unknown, and it kind of makes us paralyzed in a way. That's scary to us. And so we wrongly believe that the unknown is more stressful than the known. And when you think this way, it is rooted in stress and anxiety and a fear-based mentality, and it prevents you from moving forward, like I said. But here is the secret. This is what no one ever tells us. Really and truly, I really mean this. And it took me a very long time for me to figure this out for myself. The secret that no one ever tells us is once we understand that this resistance is simply our brain's way of protecting us from perceived threats, we can begin to take steps to overcome it. And it's in that space that change can occur. You see, it takes that mental shift. One of the best ways to overcome resistance to change is through learning the process of relaxation, relaxing the mind and the body. When you learn how to relax the mind and body and just simply let go of the day's worries and concerns or the things that you think you're afraid of, when we put ourselves in that state of being, we're relaxed, our brain is more open to new ideas and experiences, and that creates that space I was talking about. And as you begin to relax more often, you'll find that your resistance to change begins to slowly dissipate, because the human brain is hardwired to do what works. And when the brain finds a new neural net pathway or a new option that serves us better, it will default to that every time. So while most of these thoughts are indeed assumptions, and they can become the very beliefs that stand in the way of what it is that we want to achieve, I find that when we do an initial internal evaluation with my coaching clients, one of the first things that I'm looking for are those rigid belief systems that are limiting your success. And the bad news is that I always find them, because they're there if you're experienced enough to know how to look for them, where to look for them, what questions to ask, and how to use the answers to those questions to create a blueprint to improve your life. So one of the most transformational experiences that you can have in the human experience is when you do a deep dive into your own belief systems that cause you to think, feel, and act the way that you do. Because learning this information is going to literally tell you everything that you need to know. Because once you know what version of the operating system your computer or your brain is using, you can then determine if it's truly serving your best life or if you need to update your software, so to speak. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not rocket science. It's just a little shift in the way you process information. Having a rigid belief system can work against you and prevent you from achieving your life goals. And the truth is, when you're inflexible and you're not able to adapt to changes or new information or new situations, and that resistance shows up in your mind and ultimately in the life that you are living, this often causes loneliness and isolation because no one wants to be around people like that. And when it's you, sometimes it's really hard to see it. And I know that this is going to be difficult for some of you watching this right now. It's going to hit home. I know it, but it's the truth. And without even understanding it or the very fact that you're living that way, you could be causing everyone around you to slowly fade away because they feel uncomfortable around this kind of rigid, stale energy. Energy has to flow, it has to move. And that energy is stagnant and doesn't flow because it can't, because you are living in a state that paralyzes you by fear. Do you see what I'm saying? Is it resonating with you? It's the fear of change. And anytime you allow yourself to live in a mental state that is controlled by fear, you're going to have less life. So you do nothing and you continue to lie to yourself, telling yourself that this is where you belong, these are my people, and that you're comfortable being this way, so it's just going to stay like this. Those are the people I find who never get very far in life. And they're stressed out and miserable human beings. And if that statement resonates with you, it's a huge red flag that you need help. Now, we all know the saying that birds of a feather flock together. And when I hear that, I always secretly giggle inside because I know how toxic that can really be. And while there's certainly some truth to that statement, there's also something to be said for spending time with people who are different and or think differently than you. And it's really important to have this conversation with yourself. It can be relieving to spend time with someone who understands your trials and tribulations and feels the same way you do, has the same religion, the same politics, the same thought process, and I get all that. I understand that. I'm from the South, where that's a disease. So I grew up in Virginia. But sometimes it's relaxing to be around someone whose perspective is entirely different from your own, because it gives you a chance to forget about your own problems for a while and see the world from a new point of view. I find that most people who are the most opinionated about worldviews have never been anywhere. It's true. And who knows? If you spend time with people who are the polar opposite of you, you just might learn something new. And is that so bad after all? I mean, just because you believe something doesn't mean that it's true. So the next time that you're feeling stressed and frustrated, why not reach out to someone that's outside of your usual circle? Because it could expand your mind. You might be surprised at how refreshing that it could actually be. I find some of the most interesting people I've ever talked to are what normal society calls outcast freaks and misfits. You know, when we're feeling overwhelmed, it can be tempting to seek out people who share our own worldview. I get that. I understand that perspective. That's real comfort in knowing that we're not alone in how we see the world. And when we're in that group of people, that's very validating as a human being. And as a human being, we are constantly searching for validation because that makes us feel comfortable and it's easy and we don't have to think because we're safe and comfortable in that group of people who we deem acceptable, who are just like us, because they will agree with the things I say. And so by doing that, you're avoiding conflict. By surrounding yourself with people, thoughts, and ideas that make us feel better about ourselves. And that is a slippery, dangerous slope. Now, there's a lot of people watching this right now who will say, but Stephen, I don't want to change. And you know what? Bless your heart. Go forth and prosper. If you're happy being the way you are, you're not the people I'm talking to right now. If we only allow ourselves to interact with those who think like us, we're missing out on some of the best opportunities in life. I mean, I can love you as a human being and still disagree with the way you think. I've learned, as I've traveled throughout over 100 countries around the world, that variety really truly is the spice of life. I seek out people who are different from me. They have things to teach me. And interacting with people who think differently than us can challenge our assumptions and help us to see the world in new and very, very exciting ways. Truly, it changes you. So the next time that you're feeling stressed, I challenge you to step outside of your comfort zone and go seek out someone whose perspective is completely different from your own, and challenge yourself to have a conversation you've never had, listen to a perspective you've never had. You just might find that it's the best way to relax and recharge yourself. Are you beginning to see how being set in your ways and unwilling to change limits in your life is actually limiting you from experiencing all that life has to give? When you are not living an authentic life, it leads to stress and anxiety, as you feel like you have to stick to your beliefs no matter what. And anytime you find yourself in that place, you're definitely traveling down the wrong path. That's where the resistance that I was talking about comes into play. And I hope that this class that I'm doing tonight really makes you think, because it's important for you to reflect on your own mental state of being. But what you might not realize is that you are only resistant against yourself. That's the thing that blows my mind, is you're not harming me, you're not harming anyone around you, because they're all just going to go away from you. You're only hurting yourself. And this can be difficult it can make it difficult to relax and enjoy your life, because you're not following your belief system, and that makes you feel icky inside. But additionally, rigid belief systems can prevent you from exploring new things or meeting new people, as you may be afraid that they will not adhere to your beliefs. That's another really big flag. If you're afraid to associate with someone because they think differently than you, that's a big problem. That's a red flag that you need to pay attention to, because that red flag informs you that you are living in a toxic mindset. Seriously. So you begin doing the very things that you tell others not to do, which is to judge these people who think differently than you, so that you can put a label on them just to make yourself feel better. You think you're validating your belief system, and you think that you're compartmentalizing this person and saying, oh, this person is just one of these. You're the problem. Ultimately, that inflexibility and your resistance to change is what leads you to more stress and frustration. And it's important to be open-minded in order to move forward in this life. Please listen to me. I've learned these lessons the hard way. So, how do we know if in fact we're living like this? Well, you came to the right place. Because sometimes, due to our years of indoctrination into the system of beliefs that we now identify as being us, we can't tell anymore. And so, over the years, I have created a series of questions that if you answer them honestly, and I mean painfully honestly, they will tell you the truth. And I want you to know that this can be an emotional exercise. It can be a little painful, but I like to call this the fear of change quiz. Because when you answer these questions, the answers to these questions are going to tell you exactly what you need to do. So I want you, as I go through them, I want you to make a mental checklist with these statements. And I want you to see what resonates with you and what causes a physical feeling or a physical reaction in you. So it's things like, I can take a risk, but what if I fail? Maybe I should not. Does that resonate with you? Or I can seek help, but what if no one offers? You know, what if I get rejected? So why even try? There's a lot of people out there watching this right now that have said similar things to themselves inside of their mind in their internal dialogue. Or they might say, I always have trouble acting on changes, and what if I mess things up again? Does that sound like you? Does that sound like the conversation that you're having? You know, some people will say, what's the point? I always get my hopes up and then it fails and I just get disappointed, and it's just this big circle of disappointment that goes over and over and over again. So that leads to inaction. You don't do anything. You know? Or a lot of people will say, I can't do this. I'll never change. So why even try? I don't want to fail again. So I'm happy. I'm comfortable staying right here. If you say that statement, I'm comfortable just staying like I am. You got a problem. You got a problem. I'm too anxious to focus on success. I've actually had people say that to me. I've asked them, what's stopping you? What's the one thing that's stopping? And they go, I'm too stressed out to change. I'm too stressed out to succeed, to worry about success. The more of these statements that resonate with you, and the ones that really hit home with you, those are the ones that are important to pay attention to. Because while the above statements might not be pleasant to realize about oneself, it's entirely your fault if you hold any or many of these blocking beliefs. Now that you're aware of them, you have a responsibility to improve yourself. You know, people pick these ideas as a result of the circumstances and experiences that they have lived. So it's not your fault that you learned to think like this, but it's your fault if you refuse to change. What's important is that you can change. We can all change, but it takes that shift in our mindset to be willing and open to change. You can change right now if you really wanted to. You might fail. You might fail 5 times, but get up 6 times. Both are normal and positive outcomes to change or not to change. Those are both normal. But I urge you to keep at it, because the harder you try and the more persistent you are, the more likely that you're going to become the change that you seek. And I promise you, when you show your mind that there is another way that serves you better, you will begin to see the results in your life. You didn't get this way overnight. And you're not going to change all of this overnight either. It's a process. It's a journey that you travel. There is no destination. You'll never be perfect. You'll never be there. There is no there. Sometimes becoming a better version of you is really, really hard. I know, because I have dedicated my life to reminding powerful people just how powerful they really, truly are. Sometimes it's just a simple matter of shifting the way you think and how you process information. If you need help, I'm always here. Always. I hope that I've made you think tonight. And I hope that I've given you some food for thought that will cause you to ask yourself some really life-changing questions. Really inspect your internal belief system. Dig deep into yourself and find out why. Question yourself. Ask yourself, why do I believe this? And is it based in truth? Not what I say is true, but truth. Join us at lifeskillsmasterclass.com. We're going to show you how to optimize your internal operating system and help you create the life that you want. If I made you think tonight, that was my goal. And I hope that you will subscribe and follow me for more internal wisdom each and every week. It's my pleasure to help people just like you find their way. You know, it was a struggle. It was really hard for me to find my way. And so I enjoy the process of showing people how they can live the life that they truly want to live. Thanks so much for watching. Take care of yourself and each other. And I'll see